In this video, I'll show you how you can use linear layout in your Android applications. So let's start a new Android Studio project, and let's choose empty activity, and let's give the name to our project. Let it be linear layout test, and let's click finish button. And now we have our new project created here, and here we have two tabs. And this is Java code, we will change later. And now we need to look at this markup language. This is XML file, and it represents our activity. We can see it here. Here we have constraint layout, but in this video we need to use linear layout. That's why we need to remove it from here. And let's add our linear layout. And now we have a couple of errors here. First of all, we need to add a couple of required attributes here. For example, layout width, and let it be match parent. And then we need Android layout height, and let it be match parent. And also let's add Android orientation attribute, and let it be vertical. And now let's add a couple of buttons to our new layout. As you can see, linear layout does a very simple thing for us. It automatically arranges controls inside of it in one line, and it might be vertical line or it might be horizontal line. And we can see it here. Now we have 3 buttons inside of our linear layout, and they are arranged automatically. Now let's run our program and look at the result. I already have one device here. Let's just run our program. And here you can see our application with buttons. And let's close it for now. Now, first of all, let's give our buttons different names and look at them. Let it be button 1, and button 2, and button 3. And let's look at them. Here we might change our view to design. As you might see, all our buttons are long. It's because of this layout width attribute. This attribute might have 2 different values. It might be wrap content or match parent. If it has match parent, it will be as long as parent container. And if it has wrap content, it will be big enough to enclose its content. Let's compare them right now. Here you might see our first button, which has wrap content value. And these 2 buttons have match parent. Let's change them all to wrap content. And this one. And you might see they were changed. And now let's try to change this layout height attribute to match parent. And look at the result. You might see that height of this button is very big right now, because now this button tries to be as high as possible. Let's change it back. The same result we can get with Android weight attribute. And look at the result, this is the same. Let's add this attribute to other buttons. As you might see, they all have the same height. Okay, let's try to change it to 2. And you might see that this button is twice higher than these 2. And let's change it to 3. And this button is even bigger now. Okay, what if I change this weight to 2 also? In this case, we might see that this is the highest button, this is smaller button, and this is the smallest button. We can say that these 3 buttons are automatically arranged in one line, but proportions of these buttons can be controlled with this layout weight attribute. Let's add some gravity to our layout. Of course, I'm talking about Android gravity attribute. It allows us to attach our controls to some specific positions in layout. And let's choose end for this control. Let's look at this. As you might see now, this button 3 is attached to end of our x-axis. Let's add this attribute to our second button and let it be center. And here we might see this button in the center of the screen. And we might specify this attribute for this button also. And let it be start. As you can see, this button is connected to the start of our x-axis. And now let's add one more linear layout to our activity. Let it be nested linear layout, and I want to make it horizontal. And we need to give other IDs to our buttons. And let's give them different names. Also let it be wrap content here. And let's check our view. As you might see, we have inner linear layout here and 3 buttons inside of it. Let's change this weight here and look at it. We might see that weight attribute is working here also. And now let's work with our linear layout from Java code. For this we need to add Android ID attribute to our main layout. Let's do that. And let's give it name main layout. Then let's change the name of this button to start and add Android onClick attribute. And let's call the method just click. Then go to our Java code and add one more method. Let it be public void click. And we need to add one parameter here. It should be view button. First of all, let's test this method with toast class. And we need to create a new toast here. Let's type hello and run the program. Now let's press start and we might see our toast here. So our click method is working and we might continue. Now we need to add the reference to our linear layout. Let's do that. Please pay attention that for linear layout we need to import this Android widget linear layout library. And now in this onCreate method we need to assign this layout variable. Here we need to pass an ID of our main layout. And with help of this reference we can do everything with it. For example, let's clean it from our old buttons with remove all views method. Let's run our program. And press the button. As you can see, remove all views works fine. Okay, let's continue. Let's add one button to our layout. First of all, we need to create it with button class. Now let's specify the title of our button. Let it be button 1. Then we need to use special layout params class for this button. And here we might send sizes of our button. Let it be 300 to 200. And the last parameter is weight. Now let's attach these parameters to our button. And let's add this button to our layout. Let's run the program and test it. As you might see, here is our button. It has weight equals 1, that's why the height is so big. Let's try to remove weight and run the program once again. So if we don't specify the weight of our button, we can get desirable sizes. Now let's use different params for our button. Let it be layout params wrap content as width and layout params wrap content as height of our button. And let's add weight. And now let's create one more button. Let it be B2 and the title will be button 2. And let's give it different weight. And let's run the program. Here you might see our two buttons. And as you can see, the weights of our buttons are working. We can easily change layout orientation with set orientation method. Let it be horizontal orientation. Let's check it. And now we have two horizontal buttons. And finally, let's add gravity to our buttons. Let it be center button. And the second one should be at the bottom. And let's test our application. Here you might see our center button, and this is the button at the bottom.